Welcome to Horizons of Thought. Today, I'm going to talk to you about personal responsibility. This might seem like an odd topic coming from me. If you look at me and you've looked me up, you know that I'm a senior lecturer at a university. You know that I have a pretty good life. You can look at me physically and make a lot of assumptions about the kind of privilege I might have come from and thought, it's very easy for somebody like this to talk about personal responsibility. And to a certain degree it is. But when you look at people, you don't always understand what's going on with them. When I was born, I had two very serious things. One is that I was very cross-eyed. This eye pointed inwards so that you could just see the edge of my iris. And I was very disconcerting to look at. A lot of children would look at me and find me very strange, and it made me unappealing for lots of people to play with. The other, and much more serious issue, is that I have something called attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD back then wasn't this popular diagnosis that 8 to 10% of people get diagnosed with. It was very uncommon. Only about 1% of kids were diagnosed with it, which kind of tells you right off the bat that I had a very serious case. But hopefully you'll understand this when I tell you that I was the kind of kid who, when I got excited, would swing off of chandeliers, run through closed screen doors, ripping the screen off. Once when I was a small child, in the same day, I tried to help clean furniture with nail polish remover. I tried to feed fish by throwing pine cones into their tank. I tried to wash my hair by pouring Vaseline into my head, and I threw everything I owned out of a building to help reorganize my room for cleaning things. All in the span of a morning. I was a very, very difficult child. I ran into problems with this all through my schooling. There was more than one teacher who was willing to shit can my entire life because I was a difficult kid to teach. And not all these problems were going to be solved by personal responsibility, no question about it. I have a mother who cares about me a great deal, and when I was a child, she worked really, really hard to make sure that I got the education that I needed. At the end of grade 3, when I was having difficulty reading in a foreign language, my mother helped set up this school for all the kids in the neighborhood to get remedial education during the summers. It was called Camp Can Do. It ran for many years and it helped a lot of kids in the neighborhood do well. When I was in grade 7 and I moved from the school I was at to another school, I had difficulty adjusting. One particular teacher who really seriously disliked me and wanted me moved to special ed. There was a school psychologist who interviewed me and concluded I had a very serious case of attention deficit disorder, but that I was also well adjusted and that teachers need to sometimes deal with difficult children and still do their jobs. Her report I've read, and yeah, that's how I would summarize it. Get a grip and do your jobs. It was a really, really helpful thing, and I'm grateful, incredibly grateful for the people who stuck their neck out for me and who helped me out as a child and who've helped me out my entire life. You cannot do things just on your own. But the opposite side of that coin is you cannot do things well without also taking personal responsibility for the things in your life. When I was a 4-year-old child, I was the little monster who'd throw temper tantrums so hard that he would spin around in circles. I was an impossible child. And what my mother had to do was create a room for me that had nothing in it that she could put me into when I was throwing a temper tantrum and leave me in that room so I could punch the walls and kick the pillows until I calmed down. I have no memory of that. Here's what I do have a memory of. Around about 7 years of age, I remember that when I was upset and I was going to go into one of these fits of rage, I would often move myself into the empty room in the house and hit the stuffed animals and punch the walls and scream until I calmed down, and then I would come out and join society again. I realized by the time I was 7 years old that these behaviors that my body was driving me to and that my mind were driving me to were not acceptable, and that I needed to do something about this situation myself. I took on what was originally a punishment as a way of dealing with my own behaviors. At the same time, I really enjoyed the education aspects of school, even if I had trouble getting along with the other kids. So I worked and studied things really hard, and I made sure that I learned lots of stuff. so that by the time I got to grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, I was already doing really well in a number of subjects. Despite the reading issues, I was very good at math, and I kept up that hard work with my school as a kid. I also worked on my social skills. You can't go around throwing fits every time you're upset, so I went and learned better ways to deal with things. Some of them not so helpful. A couple times I got into fights. It did actually help keep the bullying down, but it was not an ideal solution. I became a Christian and was very active in reading up on the ways in which I can be a good and decent person to the people around me, and that was extremely helpful in my life. I made sure throughout junior high and throughout high school that I would do things to actually address my social skill issues, and I've never stopped working on my social skills my entire life. I have made it a decades-long pursuit. In fact, even this YouTube channel is an act of trying to improve my own social skills. I've done all of the things that I've done because that's what you have to do in order to make your own life better. You cannot just get help from others. By all means, when it comes, you should take it, especially if the help is sincere. By all means, you absolutely need people around you in order to excel at the things you're doing. You need people to teach you, but the more you take personal responsibility for your own behavior and your own education and your own social skills, the more you're going to get people around you who will help you, even if they weren't necessarily inclined to do so to begin with, because they'll see you as a hard worker. They'll see you as somebody who's worked on these issues, and they'll see you, at least some of them, as somebody that's worth the mental and physical and economic investment to make this person do better. For all the people out there who want to oppress you and hurt you, there are others who really genuinely want to make the world better for you if you are also making the world better for yourself. It works the other way too. You can have all the privilege in the world. You can have all the power in the world. But if you get addicted to drugs and you're cruel to people around you and you don't study hard, if you're wealthy, you can coast on that for a while, but you will diminish. Your time may come. If you're bad enough, you could find yourself in jail no matter what. This is actually how many rich people's children have found themselves in utter disillusion. And at the same time, if you suddenly find yourself much better off and with much more privilege, it can also be very difficult to keep that if you don't work really hard on the issues of yourself. All you need to do is look up the history of people who won the lottery and see how well that's worked out for them. Because for the vast majority of people who win the lottery, within 3 years, they're right back to where they started. Because just getting a lot of money, just getting a lot of opportunity on its own isn't enough. You need to keep on working on yourself to have the skills in order to maintain that, to use it well, to use it in order to learn more about the world and to help people. If you do not do these things, no amount of generosity by others is going to solve the problems of your life. You'll be right back where you started to begin with. The things that we do for ourselves to improve ourselves and to take responsibility for ourselves are in the end the most useful things that we can do to make our own worlds better. And if you do that, then you're in a position to go out and help other people, to help organize people, and to help try to make the world better. If you don't do that, all of your efforts in demanding other people do things for you or trying to organize to make the world better have a very strong chance of falling apart. They might work out. They might work out because while you decide to go out and help the world, you're also working on yourself. But if you're not at least doing those things simultaneously, no, it won't work out. It will not go the way you plan. So I cannot say this strongly enough. No matter who you are, no matter rich, poor, whether it's a background of privilege or no privilege, you do better to take personal responsibility. And yes, that also means to seek help when you need it. Thank you for watching Horizons of Thought. If you enjoyed this episode, please click the like button. If you disliked it, click the dislike button. In any case, leave me comments, leave me thoughts on this topic. If you got a bunch to add, I'll do a follow-up on this issue of personal responsibility. If you really like this channel, please go below to the donor box link, click on that, and subscribe to the channel. Subscriptions can be done monthly, and if you do them monthly, I give benefits based on the amount you subscribe. You can also do one-off contributions to the channel, which I will use to improve equipment. We're getting close to the point where I've got enough I can do that. And thank you very, very much for listening and watching. Have a good day, and I will see you in a few days.